So I'm here at Johnson Farms in Grace, Idaho. They're doing their potato harvest, and Kade here is so kind, he's going to give us the grand tour. So what are we looking at here?
All right, so this is where we start with these big trucks that get all the potatoes from the field, and they get harvested, and the harvester dumps them, all the potatoes, into these trucks. So it starts and it unloads them onto these belts.
So it goes on to these machineries here.
Yep.
Let you folks get a look at that.
So they all get unloaded from the trucks.
And now these folks here, they're doing what? They're picking some out.
Yep, and they're the ones who run the trucks and back them up and run all the stuff up here. And then they're just picking stuff up when they don't have anything to do. Picking out dirt clods and any bad potatoes.
Okay, so they're picking out the bad potatoes and the dirt clods.
So then they come up here, and they come up on this machine. And this machine is called the clod hopper. So what it does is it runs all the potatoes through all these rolling things and all these belts. And its job is to get out as many dirt clods as it can. And so it takes all these dirt clods and puts it on different belts to try and get them as much as it can away from the potatoes to make our job easier to pick stuff out.
Okay, so it kind of gets rid of the excess dirt.
Yep. So it gets rid of all the dirt and most of the stuff that we don't want. And then all the potatoes that are still good come to this belt.
So these potatoes take quite a beating but seem to survive this whole process.
Yep.
Now, what do we have going on here?
So now this is the table. So these four ladies, their main job is to pick out as much stuff as they can. And they put through those little chutes that go down onto the conveyor belt and come up here and dump into a dump truck that we dump somewhere else later. Their job is just to get as much out as they can.
So now these potatoes that you're obviously not going to use these, correct?
Yeah, because they're all bad potatoes. Either they have big lumps on them, or they're cut up already, or they're rotten. Anything we don't want in there.
So these potatoes, would they be maybe sent over to a cattle area where the cows would eat it or the hogs would eat it, or?
Not for us. Usually we just go dump them somewhere, and naturally they just decompose and become part of the ground.
Okay, so you kind of turn them back into the soil at some point, don't you?
Yeah, and lots of this is dirt too, because it includes dirt, so.
Okay.
And so now we get over here, just conveyor belts all the way to the rest where we're emptying the cellar. So this is with lots of teenagers. And so we get out for 2 weeks of school for potato harvest. And so we just hire lots of people. And our job is to pick out any other stuff that they don't get on the table and empty them into like a big bucket like this, into the backhoe where we dump into the dump truck. And then we also, our main job is to bag all the big ones. So ones that are a certain size that are big enough, we put them into these bags to tape up, and once they get full enough, we tape up and sell them. And those are 50-pound bags that we do.
So those are 50-pound bags of potatoes. And by the way, folks, $11 a bag. That's a really good deal.
Yep.
And this goes all the way deep into that cellar.
So do you want to see inside the cellar?
Okay, there's my sister Kay. She's helping to get out the bad potatoes. And there's my lovely bride. And wow, look at that back in there. We're going to get all the way back in there. You can see this.
Okay.
Okay, so we're now inside, and you can see these culverts here, and they've got holes in them. And Kate's going to tell us about those.
So cellars are pretty advanced in their cooling system. So past this wall right here, there's a tunnel with a huge fan at the end of it. And so as we put the potatoes in, we lay these pipes with holes on them all the way across. So all the way across there's these pipes. And so in the winter and everything, to make sure they're the perfect temperature and everything's regulated perfectly so the potatoes don't go rotten, we put those down, and then the cellar automatically just makes sure everything's perfect and everything's the right temperature and everything. And they all just go through these tubes to get air through everything.
So these are the tunnels that bring the air in, and there's big fans on the other side of that.
Yep.
Wow.
So if you want later, we can look inside the tunnel.
Really? We're going to be able to look inside the tunnel. That's great. Look at all those potatoes.
So this is called the piler. So it just that's a pretty advanced arm. It's just an arm that can move in and out and all around. And this thing, this belt can move in and out. And so
Wow.
they can put the potatoes exactly where they want them.
So they
Going
just
upright.
keep retracting that back as needed. And you've got a guy clear at the top, two guys it looks like. What are they doing up there?
So he has a remote control that just controls it. So that's his job, is just to make sure, just control where all the potatoes go.
Now how high will he go? Is that about the height that he'll leave this hole?
He'll go higher, usually to the red lines, because he's just starting out, so he has to build it up.
Oh, he's
We
got
just
to build
start
a
the cellar,
base.
But usually go to the red line or even higher, usually.
Okay, so yeah, it's going to make it to that red line. We're going to walk in a little bit closer. You can see those potatoes coming off the conveyor belt. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And what temperature do you try to keep these potatoes at all the time?
I do not know. You'd have to ask my dad.
That was above his pay grade.
But also, the biggest thing is it has to be really humid in here too.
Oh, it has to be humid as well. Okay. Now we're going to go take a look at that wind tunnel. Okay, so we're coming into the wind tunnel here.
So usually there's lights. That light switch we have to turn on, but usually there's lights all the way down. But here's the fan that blows everything.
Okay,
So
there's
it's
a
just
big fan
huge
there.
fan, and it'll just blow all the way down into these different air vents that go into it. So that just goes all the way to the end.
Wow. Okay. So there's
That goes out to the cellar.
blowing right into the cellar.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Kade, thank you so much for giving us this tour.
You bet.